All right, we're pleased to have joining us now for the latest on tariffs and trade. On the eve of that August 1st trade deadline, President Trump says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, always a pleasure to see you and have you on the show.
Morning, Joe.
We heard yesterday after we saw the EU and Japan, we heard actually that South Korea, just to paraphrase, it might have been like, what about us? We're here. And then before we know it, we hear from South Korea. Is that typical? Are there other countries that have seen what's happening that are saying, we don't want to be the last country to make a deal with President Trump?
Well, look, we've got the August 1st deadline coming up. And as we mentioned before, the rates could boomerang back to the April 2nd level. South Korea was a special case because they had an election, a new government, so they were not in the position to fully negotiate. They came in yesterday afternoon. They presented a very good offer. President Trump moved the offer up a bit, and we reached a very good agreement where they will have 15% tariffs. They will buy a substantial amount of U.S. energy. They will make a substantial investment into the U.S., both from their sovereign resources and via private companies.
So that sounds like a template. It sounds very similar to some of the other recently announced deals. What will it do for us in terms of exports to South Korea?
We pulled down a lot of the trade barriers, a lot of the non-tariff trade barriers. So obviously, we'll be exporting a lot more energy to them, and then it will be better for our farmers, better for all of our exporters. As the South Koreans said, we like U.S. products, and now what we're seeing with President Trump is these tariff barriers and the non-tariff barriers, which are more difficult to quantify sometimes, are coming down. Jamieson Greer, the USTR ambassador, has a book that looks like kind of 3 of the old New York City phone books that is a list of all the non-tariff barriers by country. They had been substantial. I believe with Indonesia, we marked out something like 11,000 lines of tariffs.
A lot was made of the president's comments about India. We were trying to figure it out exactly what, and it's obviously negotiating and leverage and everything else. And we've heard that we're close with India, and that's one of the majors, other than China, that are left. What was the president's intent yesterday with some of those comments about India? And do you expect something to happen before the deadline?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. It'll be up to India. India came to the table early. They've been slow rolling things. So I think that the president, the whole trade team's a bit frustrated with them. And also, India's been a large buyer of sanctioned Russian oil that they then resell as refined products. So, they have not been a great global actor.
How about in China, some of that wrapped up? And we'd like to hear it from you exactly what the tone was. And we understand how complex a deal with China and would involve and how many different myriad complex issues are involved. But where does it stand after the weekend or the last few days?
Yes, so we met for 2 full days in Stockholm. The Chinese are tough negotiators. We're tough, too. It was led by the vice premier, my counterpart, Hu Feng, who I have great respect for. He is both a statesman, a tough negotiator, and very senior in the leadership. We pushed back on them quite a bit and made our positions known. I believe that we have the makings of a deal. They announced that we would have a 90-day roll, which was a bit premature. Ambassador Greer and myself will be speaking to President Trump today about whether we will be doing the roll by the August 12th deadline. There's still a few technical details to be worked out on the Chinese side. Between us, I'm confident that it will be done, but it's not 100% done.
Secretary Bessent, just in terms of the China negotiations, we had Leland Miller on earlier today. He does the China Beige Book report. He said that when you had the export controls that were put into these negotiations, and China forced that issue by throttling our exports to us of the rare earth minerals, that changed the leverage and gave China much more leverage in the situation. We heard this morning that China is asking questions now about NVIDIA's H20 chip and whether there are concerns, whether you can track those chips, and they want reassurances on that front. How much more complicated is the Chinese negotiation than it has been with any other country you've dealt with?
Well, one thing I'll tell you is that is a gross oversimplification from your previous guest. I didn't hear what he said, but I can tell you, they have used the rare earth magnets as a negotiating card, but we've got plenty of our own, and we at a point had 12 countermeasures on against them. They, all national security based. We have dropped those. The magnets are flowing, and we'll see. But you've got the two largest economies in the world. And Becky, what we've never seen before in recent history is if you look back to the economic negotiations, 70s, 80s, even the 90s, you look at the Plaza Accord, the Louvre Accord, some of the big economic negotiations, even when the U.S. came off the gold standard in the 70s, we were negotiating with our allies. Our allies were our biggest economic rivals, and then there was the Soviet Union, who was our big military rival. They were a small economy, but a military powerhouse. Negotiating with China, we are negotiating both with our largest economic rival and our largest military rival. So you're right to say that this is, in a way, three-dimensional chess.